This is the second part of how to make the boot animation video, and previously we created an animation using After Effects, then converted it into PNG sequence and optimized all the images so that the size is under 10 megabytes. In this video we'll be using all those PNG files and creating a boot animation from that. So I would like to clear some things first. In the previous video that I made, you can use any animation that you want. You can also use After Effects templates that you have on the internet and use them to create an animation and use it as your animation. But I created a very simple animation and here it is. In the previous part of the video, I said that you have to optimize the video PNG files, but it's not a rule. You can optimize the simple PNG files as well. And I've also optimized the images for the simple animation. This is just to make sure that the size of the animation is small and it runs smoothly on all the devices. So before starting this, go ahead and optimize all the images that you have created. It will reduce the size and it will also make sure that the animation runs properly. Here are all the PNG files that are present in the animation. Right now it's just kind of a PNG sequence and the phone can't recognize how it's going to play the animation. So we'll have to make a configuration file and use that configuration file and put all these PNG images in separate folders so that we can actually tell the phone how to play the animation. So I have a sample configuration file. It is named as DESC. I'll just copy it inside this folder. And here you will also have to create 3 other folders. We'll name the first one as part 0 and we'll create 2 more. We'll name the second one as part 1 and the third one as part 2. So before moving all these PNG files into these folders, I will first tell you how the configuration file works, and according to this configuration file, we'll put all these PNG images inside the particular folders. So the configuration file is really small. There are only 2 or 3 things that you have to understand. First is the size of the animation. So here you have to put the size of the phone and not the size of the animation that you used. So even if you have rendered all the PNG files in 720p, you have to put your phone's resolution. So it will scale up all the PNG images, and if you're using 720p images, it will scale them up to 1920. So I'll put my phone size here. So 1080 is the width and 1920 is the height. If you remember, while creating the animation, the frame rate that we used was 30 frames per second. If you want to cross check, you can go to After Effects, then click on composition settings, and here you can check the frame rate is 30 frames per second. Now the first line was quite simple. You had to enter the resolution and the frames per second. Next part is this will be according to the folders that you have created. So these are kind of the configuration for each folder, and C11 actually tells how to run the part 0 folder. So right now, as you can see, we have created 3 folders. These are actually the specific configurations for this folder, part 0 folder, and this will tell how the part 0 folder runs. And similarly for part 1 and part 2. So because we have 3 folders, so there are 3 here. So this looks kind of intimidating at first, but I'll tell you how it works. The C tells the Android system that this part has to compulsory play. I won't go into too much technical details about this. I'll try to keep it very simple. The C means that the animation will play even if the phone has booted. I've put 3 C's so that the part 0 will compulsory play, the part 1 will also play, and the part 2 will also play. But if you have a very long animation, you can put P as well. But to make it simple, we'll use C only. If you put P, then it will play according to if the phone has booted or not. And the next part is this 1. So this 1 signifies that the part 0 that we have, all the files that we'll put in this folder will play only once. So if I make it as 3 or if I make it as 4, so now this part will loop 4 times and it will play and repeat the part 0 folder 4 times. But if you want to repeat the animation continuously for infinite amount of times until the phone boots up, you can put it as 0. But as we remember, we created the animation in 3 parts and we put the middle part as the looping one. So we'll put this as 1 because we only want to play it once. And the last is the 0. And the 0 is the amount of frames that it should pause before it switches to the next one. So I've put it 0 because I don't want any pause between the part 0 and part 1. If you're using some kind of static image, then you can pause it for some time so that it displays the image and then move to the next part. So rather than having 40 frames of the same image playing for 1 second, you can just put 40 here and this will repeat the 1 frame for 40 times. I know the last part is a bit confusing, so I'll try to explain it a bit. So if you see the PNG images right here, you can see that the animation ends at 41, 40, 41, 42, 43, all are the same frames. So to save some space, what we could do is we could delete all these 3 frames and pause the animation in the configuration file for 3 frames. So this C stands for the animation will compulsory play even if the phone boots up. The 1 stands for the amount of loops that will happen. If you put this as 0, it will play for infinite amount of times. And the last one is the amount of pause it has before moving on to the next one. This pause will not be in seconds, it will be in the amount of frames. So if you put this as 30 frames, it will pause the animation for 1 second because we have used the frame rate as 30. So if you wanted to pause for 3 seconds, you have to put this as 90. We'll finally configure our file. We want the first part to play once and we want the second part to play infinite amount of times until the phone boots up, and then we want the third part to play. So we'll put this as 1 0 because we want to play it infinite amount of times. We'll have to put here 0. This is the amount of loops, and for the third part we don't have to make any changes, we just want to play it once. I'll make a little change to the last one. I'll have the last frame hold for 10 frames and we'll delete the 3 frames that are similar. So now we're done with the configuration file. I'll just go ahead and save it. So now we have to figure out where the looping part starts, and from the starting till the looping part we'll put it in part 0, and the looping part we'll put in part 1, and the last we'll put in part 2. So we'll have to select all the PNG files accordingly. So just before the head movement starts, I'll note down the file number. It is 69. 69 is a nice number. Alright, so from 0 to 69 we'll put in part 0. So I can see in the PNG files that the head stops moving at 110. So from 70 to 110, I'll paste it in the part 1 and all the remaining I'll put in the part 2. Part 0 will play once and this will loop and this will end. So now we are all set. All we need to do is create a boot animation file using this, and for that you will need WinRAR. If you don't have WinRAR, you can use 7-zip as well, but I'll show you how you can do it with WinRAR. Select all of them at once, right click and select add to archive. You want it to be in a zip archive, name it as bootanimation.zip. This is a very important part. You want to select the compression method as store. If you don't select it as store, it won't work on your phone. So while creating the archive, what you have to do is select this as zip, name it as boot animation, and the compression method should be store, and then press OK. So now we finally have the boot animation ready on our computer. The next thing that we'll need to do is transfer it to our phone and then flash it on our phones. So I'll go ahead and I'll copy this to my mobile, and then I'll show you how you can do that as well. Installing a boot animation is quite simple. You will need root access for this, and you will also require a file manager, and the file manager should be such that it can access your root directory. So right now I'm having the ES file explorer. When you swipe from the left, you will also have an option for root explorer. You will have to tick that and it will ask for super user permissions. You will have to grant that. So after you have granted it root access, you will have to go to the boot animation file that you have copied from your computer, and then you'll have to copy it. Then go to the root directory by pressing on this button and select system and then media. And here you would already have a boot animation file. You could replace this file or you could back it up. And for backing up this file so that it doesn't get deleted, you could rename it to something like boot animation 2 and then paste the new file here. After the file is pasted, you will have to tap and hold it and then select properties and then go to the permissions and change it to RWRR. You want the permissions to look like this. After I've changed the permissions, all you have to do is reboot your phone and you will have the new boot animation here. So this is the custom boot logo that I have. If you have not watched the custom boot logo video, you can do that. In that video, I tell you guys how you can create a custom boot animation for yourself. So that was the boot animation and that's how it looks. If it's not working properly for you, then you might need to optimize the images for it to work properly. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and you can also watch some previous videos on this channel.